Hi, this is Georgina Villasenor-Lee, and welcome to my Week 3 multimedia presentation. So my presentation will provide a brief scenario within the context of my current employer, Riverside Community College District. I'll then cover 3 themes: structure, tasks, and management, and I will be pulling in theories within each theme. In 2017, the Office of Civil Rights, which is under the Department of Education, issued very strict guidance to all educational institutions, including my employer, regarding the requirement to establish formal Title IX programs. Title IX has been in place since 1970s, and so this was obviously a policy update, and this was to prevent and address sex discrimination in education, more specifically sexual assault, sexual misconduct, and extreme cases like rape. What we see here is an example of cooperative federalism at play. So we are required to comply with this guidance. If not, then we are at risk of losing some very important funding. So in analyzing this situation, what I saw on the surface was Wilson's dichotomy. I saw separation between these unique functions, Title IX as the law or the policy, and then administration seen through our institution through the Human Resources Department. So moving into structure, OCR provided guidance to all these institutions, letting them know this is what ideally you should be implementing, the very minimal. So this included having Title IX coordinators at each one of your locations, which as a multi-college district, that was definitely the case. What the head of our department did was hire a district compliance officer who would be responsible for the district's Title IX program and figuring all of this out. So Lorraine was tasked with figuring out what resources were needed in order to comply with OCR's guidance. So this is a perfect example of how this structure and bureaucracy, as presented by Max Weber, is present in this situation. And so in the process of determining the structure as well, what we find Lorraine doing also is figuring out the division of labor and work. And this takes us into Taylor's concept of efficiency as well. And along the way, as we determine the structure, there's fine-tuning that is done, and so I'll touch on that on the next theme. So as these new Title IX tasks are given to us, the Deputy Title IX coordinators, our district compliance officer was tasked with motivating us to embrace these new tasks. And this was through just allowing us to understand why it was important and also providing us with training and what we needed to be successful. So one can argue that being able to motivate us, as per Maslow, is another theory that is seen through this theme. We also see that the district compliance officer as a manager is responsible for this division of labor and coordinating our work. So we see the presence of Henri Fayol, Taylor, Weber, and also really she's required to manage the process itself, as we see Gulick come into play. So it was a matter of establishing a process from beginning to end, processing complaints from beginning through an intake, providing those involved with resources, determining interim remedies, investigating and working with student conduct officers as needed. So over time, as this is taking place, she's fine-tuning our process as well to make sure that it's being done efficiently, and modifying it as needed, as we see with Taylor's theory. So with this policy update, it's important to also note how there are many stakeholders from students, faculty, staff, and administration at each one of the colleges who are impacted by this. And so our district compliance officer, as well as all of us as Deputy Title IX coordinators, have taken a collaborative approach in making sure that we take feedback from those colleges, but also our district compliance officer makes sure to also ask us what our thoughts are on helping to improve the process. So we see the presence of Taylor still, but also we see Mary Parker Follett's management approach with our district compliance officer in fine-tuning these processes. As a manager, our district compliance officer is also dealing with a unique political environment. We deal with many things that private sector does not have to. So this whole concept of shared governance in higher education can also delay our ability to implement changes. So this brings about Graham Allison's theory, and that we may be fundamentally alike with the private sector, but we still have very much unique circumstances that we deal with in public sector. And then lastly, we have our faculty who within our organization, they tend to be resistant and they're not a big fan of our department or of being told what to do. So we try to find ways to really justify why we're doing things the way we are, whether it's referencing statutory authority or just recommending best practices. So we find ourselves having to give legitimacy within our own organization as per Selznick's informative cooptation. So this is where we also need to meet the pressure from certain groups like the Faculty Association. Thank you for checking out my presentation. Have a blessed day.